Okay, hello. Thank you so much for coming in today. We just heard from Ellery, and it would be wonderful today if you could share with us a little bit about your own experiences in your involvement in the process of speech therapy to date. In our experience, clinically, parent and family involvement is so important in the early stages, and we wondered if you could describe to us um, why you feel that your involvement has been important.
Well, I think from the get go, we sort of started to see that there was something different about Ellery. She was about 3 or 4, and we noticed that she was getting kind of stuck on words. I work in the school system. I'm a teacher and special ed teacher, and so we brought it to the attention of our pediatrician, and needless to say, we eventually got her into some sorts of speech therapy, not necessarily specializing in, we later found out it was like a stuttering fluency issue. Um, we were kind of encouraged to give it some time, that she was still very young. We went to the therapy for, I don't know, a few months,
Yeah,
6 months
yeah.
or so, and then we took a break. And as she's gotten older, we noticed that it sort of came back, and that
worse, too.
she was getting really stuck on words, and when she was excited, she would stammer. And so we brought it again to the attention of our pediatrician, and then that's kind of when we met Dr. Leslie Wilk. I think as parents, we really need to be advocates for our kids. I feel as though if we hadn't pushed for it, maybe she would still kind of be going along at her own pace, and interacting with people, and people think she's cute and all, so they never really thought that she had a problem, because she's a nice girl and she doesn't get in trouble. And so I feel like if we hadn't advocated for her, I don't think that we would be here today.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Thank
agree.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, she's just not just a nice girl, but a very kind-hearted and non-competitive.
Right.
Only thinks about kind things or about improving herself, and not in a competitive way. And she's very adorable. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
very
thank you.
cute and very easy to form a relationship with, because she's so sweet and so connected and so giving of herself.
And she gets that from me. So. I'm
It's
just kidding.
always a role model.
Yeah.
So she's truly adorable and has made amazing progress. So she's 8 years old now.
Nine.
Nine. She
9
just
years old.
turned nine.
Just turned.
What age can you remember specifically when you first noticed her dysfluency?
I think about 3.5. Do you remember we were
About
out by
that.
the pool and she was calling across and she was stuck, and it was alarming how
Yeah.
how long it went on for, and that's when we said, this seems bigger than we can fix. We need to find someone to help
Well, I think we
us.
kind of noticed a little earlier than that, but we didn't. We just thought it was kind of normal.
Right, and like the pediatrician kind of kept telling us that it was a normal developmental process, and that it would get better,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
even in those earlier years. But as time went on, that's when we kind of pursued it further.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So as parents, how do you feel that parents could, if you were to be advocating for your child and for the profession and encouraging other speech pathologists to work in the best possible way, what would you say? How can parents best be involved in the process?
I think if you feel that something isn't right, that you really should look into getting help. We just knew that things weren't right, and that this was going to hinder her in the future. And to think of the big picture as her as an adult with this disfluency, how will that look, as opposed to how it looks when she's a little kid. And so, for us to look at the whole picture and think, let's try and get this fixed. Let's see if someone who knows more than we do, see how they feel. Let's get another opinion. So,
I also think though that you have to really stay involved and like not just take like the school's answer like no she's fine, because that's what happened, and
it's still happening.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it still does happen, but we were like, oh no. Yeah, so you really have to stay after them, like she was saying, be an advocate for your
Right,
child, because
right,
if you
and
don't and just take their word for it,
Mm-hmm.
you could have troubles down the line. So
Because
I love your point. I love your point about being advocates and also staying very in touch and not just taking people's word for it. Not that they don't mean well, but I think we've talked about the fact that not every professional understands another professional's line of work. So the school teacher is concerned about the scholarly work, but doesn't really understand necessarily
Sure.
what a child who studies is going through, what they're experiencing, and how traumatic it can be for them. So, and also as parents, you're with the communication 24/7 with your child, so you know exactly what she's experiencing, the good times and the bad times, and no one else can tell you that. So I think in that sense, the parents are the most important people in the process to at least give feedback and to sort of be attuned to what's happening. What from this process that you've been in here with speech therapy with Ellery, what do you think are some of the things that you've done or thought about or been a part of that have been helpful?
Well, turtle talk is one of them.
Yeah, using slowing things down and taking it easy, not sort of running on a high energy motor, because that tends to make it worse. So even just day to day, like when we're getting ready to go somewhere, I have to think to myself, let's not make a rush. Let's try and keep things orderly and slowly talk, as well as the turtle talk in our practicing each day. But just sort of keep things in a more calm, even keel, and that seems to help.
And I would say my wife's a teacher, so she's a lot of times like teaches the same things all the time, so it's like repetitive, and she just goes through it probably pretty quickly. When she's in school, she talks really fast, and so I know that you've said you had to kind of work on slowing down.
Right.
And me being a police officer, same thing. If I pull a car over, I'm already going through saying, "You're stopping for this, and this."
I'm
and I
more
just try to get
aware
through
now
with it.
myself
Yeah.
in my profession. Is that what?
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I
more
mean.
aware just
Yeah.
in my day to day of how quickly I talk, and
Then
I
we have
think
to
it
try
helps.
to talk slower when we're at home.
Helps the kids in my class too. But
Right.
but I think people lose that. They just kind of get into this rut of we've got to get to practice. We've got to get
And I think you make a great point about the fact that in each one of our your field of work, you get so used to what you're saying, and you also want to be quick. You know what you got to do, and you're on the moment. As a police officer, as a teacher, as anybody in a field where you're rushed and you're hurried and you're saying it without even thinking fast. And we also all vary. Some of us tend to be fast talkers, and I have the same problem. I had to actually work on myself. I think a lot of us have that problem. So I think it's also important for parents not to feel badly in any way, but rather, hey, what can we do to improve things? Because in our adult life, we're going to be fast, and we're living in a fast-paced life, which makes it even worse.
Right.
So yeah, very, very good point. In terms of other family members, so in your case, you guys have been amazingly committed, which I think has been a very primary beneficial aspect of the therapy process. It may seem subtle, but I think it's more major than is obvious. The support, the dedication, the being at regular sessions, just all of the above, I think is very important, in addition to slowing down and doing some of the things that we've talked about at home. And I think offering personal attention, in this case, Ellery is an only child, so she gets lots of attention and doesn't have those issues of rivalry. But at the same time, a lot of parents are just busy and distracted. And I think giving more and more individual attention and focus on the content of what she's saying, not always only on the manner of speech, is also extremely helpful, which you guys do. Could you comment a little bit about extended family members? So, for example, grandparents live with you, which is not always the case, and also seem to be very dedicated. Can you comment on the role of the grandparents or where they might have been helpful?
Well, I think my mother's kind of an integral part of her day-to-day routine. She's kind of the Grammy that makes you breakfast and that sort of thing. She's worked in the school system too, so I think that we have a big support in that way. So if we're told to kind of work on, say, the turtle talk, Grammy's there and she helps as well.
She's reminded us a couple times too.
Yes. So we're all kind of we're all together as one unit, and I think that support system is really huge for her.
Wonderful. Not always typical.
Right.
Many families, and it's very special. I know Grammy is here today. Would she like an opportunity to say something herself, or do you just want to carry it for her?
I think we got it.
Yeah,
I think we
okay.
got it.
Okay, good. Well, that's been very helpful. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention specifically about your role or about the process for Ellery, how you think it's been for her?
I think it's an interesting age. I'm not sure she was aware that she had this disfluency, and I think the way we've approached kind of letting her know in a gentle way, particularly with you, I think she's more aware of it now. I think she could have been very embarrassed by it, but I think the way that we approached it in a sort of gentle way about how we want to help her to feel more comfortable, and some of the wordage that you used with her, I think that was the right way to do this. And I think by her being more aware of it now and more mature, hopefully that'll help in the process of overcoming this disfluency.
I don't know.
Did I talk too much?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point because parents vary a lot and it's hard to always hit it right. Sometimes overly involved or saying things to a child who's
Right.
stuttering, sometimes not saying anything.
Or slow
sometimes-
down. I know that we had looked into what should we say, before getting back involved in therapy again. And I know you're not supposed to say this, and I know you're not supposed to say that. So
That's what I was
coming to
just gonna
someone
bring
who
up,
is in the field, I think that it was approached the right way. I would rather say nothing and wait to find out what would be the best
I would
method.
feel so bad for her all the time because when she gets excited, it's when it gets worse,
really bad.
and or happy or whatever, and I would kind of get frustrated because she would try to say something and I would be trying to be like, okay, you don't want to say like
Slow down.
Yeah, you don't want to
Stop
say
stuttering,
that. So I really didn't know what to say. So this has really helped a lot too with on how to approach
And we know
things.
that she knows now.
Yeah.
And again, I love that point that you just made because a lot of people, actually speech therapists included, but certainly out in the lay world, don't often stop to be fully compassionate to what parents are going through. They might feel a little bit for the child if they see that they're stuck or having trouble, but parents are also having a hard time with how to react, what to do, wanting the best for your child, worrying too, what will be as they get older, which you made the point. So the fact that parents are going through a lot in all aspects of child rearing, but in this component of speech that we're describing here, is, I think, very important. I think, and we all need support along the way. So I think that that's a very, very big part of it as well, trying to encourage other speech pathologists to make sure to include parents where applicable and help them out as well. So thank you so much. Is there anything else? We did a long back and forth today that I think has been very helpful. And with your permission, we'll share this with other speech pathologists so that they can be better informed about the role of parents and family and just more about the process for young children who stutter. Before we end, is there anything else that you would like to add or say of anything?
Just the involvement in school and really insisting that the modifications need to take place in order for the child to be successful. It's just not fair to not be an advocate for your child and to really make sure that they're doing what they should be doing.
On that last note, I know that at the beginning you shared with me such a hard, sad story about Ellery with reading and being put into a different reading level. Would you mind just mentioning a little summary of that?
Right. So the classroom teacher tested Ellery. It's called the BAS test. It's a reading level test where they are sort of graded on a ABCD depending on how they test out. And this was an orally given test where Ellery was to read orally and the teacher charts kind of how she's saying the words, timing her. So it's scaled in that way. And so I administered the test myself because I'm a teacher as well. So when I had heard that she was being tested with this, I knew that it really wasn't a fair measure for her. A child with a disfluency really shouldn't be given a test like this because they're marked down for any time they mispronounce a word or repeat a word, or they're also marked down for how long it takes them to read the passage. So that was something that we really put our foot down about, and we didn't want her to be placed in a reading group because of this score. And she was.
Well, she was in the accelerated program.
She had been in an accelerated reading, yeah. So now she was put into sort of, I think, a little bit below grade level, and she was also not able to take books out of the school library
Yeah, she kept saying that.
She
They
had
keep
to
making
take
me take baby books
baby
out.
books, and
So,
we were looking at the books thinking, oh my god, she's reading Harry Potter. Look at the words are this big, the print, and so that was
there were
really
books like See Pug Go and stuff like that. No, really, it was.
was really not.
You know.
So they were missing the mark so much on her potential. So we had
Thank you. Such an important point to make for sure. And again, encouraging, I think, speech pathologists to collaborate more and more in services, teaching, collaborating, and so on with others and with teachers. And if I can just comment that at that time, after you shared with me, and then, once I began to form a more stable and good relationship with Ellery, she shared with me how painful it was to be shoved sort of into this reading group that didn't seem appropriate, and how much it hurt her feelings and how much she valued her abilities in reading that suddenly were not being respected and noted by the school. And it hurt her so much that I had to work a little bit, building her up a little bit and doing reading in our own work to show her that she was great and that there was nothing to be marked down upon other than for the disfluency, which was not appropriate. And I think she felt comforted by that. So again, that's where I guess the timing issue of getting into a therapy process at the right time is helpful.
Can I make one point too? I wouldn't tell her about John Lasik, how I've always talked a lot. I work with him and he stutters really badly, and he has some, I don't know what it is, a thing that goes in his ear.
audio device.
Right, but I mean, I've noticed like with Ellery, I was worried because I see like people pick on him that we work with because he stutters.
A grown man.
He's grown. Yeah,
grown men
he's 40-something years old, and they pick on him. And he stutters really bad.
So sad.
Great guy, smart, and he just said that like he asked his parents when he was younger, like why am I like this? And they said, you're just like that. And he said his mother said, I dropped you on your head when you were a kid. That's why. So, and he would ask like, can I go get help and stuff? And they're like, you're fine. So, and now he's still stutter really bad. And I'm just saying, like I've noticed differences with Ellery. Like she's gotten better, and gonna feel bad. Like his parents really were just like, I don't know. It's just the way it is.
Right.
So.
It's too bad.
Well, thank you for sharing that too, because I mean that's from the perspective of an adult who didn't have the parent involvement that we're talking about here, the investment, the time, or perhaps the knowledge to go and seek services. And then here he is as an adult with the struggles. So it's very sad, and all about advocating, all about parents. None of us can be perfect, but trying to do what's important at the right times. It was a great story. Thank you so much. Well, I want to thank both of you because you've been amazing parents, amazing, committed, so loving, and so eager to be right into the process. And I feel it's made a huge difference, and Ellery hopefully continues to do amazingly well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.